Have you or a loved one ever had their significant other kidnapped by an undead abomination? Do you have a burning desire to purge the hellish creatures rising from their graves to torment the living on dark October nights? Have you ever wanted to just punch a werewolf in the face? If you answered yes to any of these questions, Nosferatu for the Super Nintendo may be the game for you. Maybe. Let's take a step back in time to check out Nintendo Power issue 74 from July 1995, which gives us our first glimpse at Nosferatu. If the summer heat is getting you down, this just might be the pack to send a chilling shiver up your spine. Sega has combined detailed graphics, smooth animation, and a fun horror setting into one very slick package. Note that the word fun is in quotation marks. The dramatic opening sequence introduces the nameless young hero, that is, not so nameless according to the manual, who is on a quest to save his girlfriend from the undead inhabitants of the local castle. The aforementioned opening sequence, and in fact all of the cutscenes in Nosferatu, feature some awesome pixel artwork, and the game itself boasts some impressive visuals for the Super Nintendo. The nameless hero named Kyle's animation in particular is visually impressive as he runs, dies, jumps, dies, punches, and dies his way through Nosferatu's castle. Nosferatu owes much of its movement control scheme to games like Prince of Persia, another game which boasts further similarities including detailed animation and dump truck handling. Games like this almost seem to prioritize the animation of the character over responsiveness, resulting in some frustrating problems. For instance, if you sprint down a corridor and need to stop suddenly, you need to be very careful as your character needs to complete a few frames of animation first. This can result in a grisly death, but at least you'll look good doing it. Nosferatu also features some light puzzle elements in the form of pressing a switch to open a nearby door or pushing a wall to reach higher elevations. The layout of the levels encourage a bit of exploration by having different routes through certain stages or important power-ups in difficult to reach areas, but keep an eye on the timer. If you run out of time before reaching the exit, you'll find yourself resting in pieces. Unlike Prince of Persia, however, Nosferatu has you punching the absolute crap out of every monster in sight. The combat in Nosferatu feels almost like Streets of Rage, if you can believe it. If Prince of Persia and Streets of Rage had a baby, it'd look a lot like Nosferatu, and It's Like Boo would suddenly make much more sense. Kyle, the protagonist of Nosferatu, and Tony Danza from Who's the Boss's long-lost brother, is the bravest and manliest man the world has ever seen. He has never encountered a problem that he can't solve with his fists. You'll find yourself going toe-to-toe with some of the most infamous horror monsters of all time, such as the werewolf, Frankenstein's monster, and monkeys in skirts. As I've already mentioned once, Kyle's movement and attacks are smoothly animated and look really nice, and the sound effects while you're pummeling the remaining teeth out of a zombie's skull really add a sense of weight to your attacks. Landing a combo on an enemy actually feels quite satisfying and is one of the things Nosferatu really gets right. Kyle isn't just a one-punch chump and has quite a few moves available to him, from simple punches to shoulder checks and kicks. This system sounds great on paper, but for some reason the developers decided to use only 2 buttons on a controller with 4 more buttons available to perform all these moves. You'll occasionally find yourself accidentally dashing through enemies and suddenly facing the wrong way or just flinching around while trying to do a jump kick. Most of the time, I find myself simply shoulder checking an enemy and then mashing the Y button. Nosferatu has a power-up system to complement Kyle's wide assortment of moves. You can collect blue crystals to increase your maximum life, green crystals to restore some of your current life, and red crystals which make your attack combos more effective. This red crystal system is somewhat reminiscent of an NES game I reviewed previously called Kickmaster. In my Kickmaster review, I praised the fact that you level up, gain new attacks and abilities, and become stronger over the course of the game. Nosferatu's power-up system has you collecting these red crystals to increase the length of your attack combos, adding new and more powerful moves. Nosferatu also completely botches this concept by making you lose your red crystals every time you take damage. In fact, you don't even have to take damage to lose your red crystals. Simply running into a wall can cause you to toss your precious crystals into the ether, never to be seen again, thus erasing any bonuses they may have provided. Let's talk about the music in Nosferatu for a second. Hang on, let me just check my notes here really quick, and oh, here it is. Nosferatu certainly has something that resembles music. I know that that's a little harsh, but just listen for yourself. I realize music is a very subjective thing, and I honestly have to give the composers credit for trying something different to create this air of oppression and uncomfortableness, but that's exactly how most of the music in Nosferatu makes me feel. Uncomfortable. Each stage does have its own music, but you'll hear the same few short loops reused repeatedly throughout the stages in your punch quest, and most of them wear out their welcome in the very first few minutes. There is one exception to this, however. The track that you hear during the game's ending is quite good, and has been playing in the background for most of this review. If you find yourself at the end of a long night, punching and kicking your way through Nosferatu, don't you dare turn off the console and go to bed, because there are no saves and no password. If you want to have a shot at the Undead Heavyweight Championship of the world and go toe-to-toe with Nosferatu, you'll have to do it all in one sitting, or go all SimCity style and leave the Super Nintendo on overnight. Nosferatu does at least offer unlimited continues, which is a godsend, since you'll likely find yourself dead quite often, considering the controls are only slightly more responsive than a vampire with an oak stake in its chest. To summarize, if you're a big fan of games like Prince of Persia or Blackthorn, and you'd like a little more vitamins F, I, S, and T in your diet, you'll probably enjoy Nosferatu. I always try to find at least one positive point to make, and admittedly the combat in Nosferatu can be satisfying at times, and the animation looks great. As for everyone else, the unresponsive movement, the 2 buttons for 10 moves combat, the gotcha nature of some of the enemies, and the disappointing music make Nosferatu an undead horror game which, in my opinion, should just stay dead. This is Quebs. This has been my review of Nosferatu for the Super Nintendo, and as always, I hope you have a great day.